All right, here we are, LWG, for our second official live cast. I'm Jared, and I am here with Ross, John, and Josh Booz. So what we're going to be discussing today for all of you is army creation in Age of Sigmar. And we have a pretty loaded discussion, so I think it'll go a lot of different ways. And a lot of us are actually starting new armies currently, or taking our existing armies in like a new direction. And this is something that I think is in our minds. It's fresh right now. How do you go about starting an army? Where do you start from the very beginning, the conceptual design of the force, to the painting, to the theme of it, to even the strategy and the tactics, to the actual units that you pick? We're going to kind of go over as much of that as we can tonight, and give you as much in-depth discussion on that front as we can. So let's just dive in. So you guys feel free to chime in. My first question would be, how do you pick a faction? So you're brand new to AOS. You maybe have a little bit of familiarity with the fluff, but you just don't know which army you're going to pick. How did you guys pick your armies? Where are you at?
Oh, it's all about which models you like. That's the big thing, because you can make anything work in this game, which is nice.
So that you're drawn to the aesthetics right away. That's your first thing.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
I'd agree. Me too. I think when I really break it down, what really catches my eye is the aesthetics. It's the very first thing. So yeah, my very first army was Thousand Suns years and years ago, when, my God, they were so bad. But I love the models. I love the color scheme. But this is before we knew anything about competitive meta or what are the good picks. And I just picked them, and it was a mistake because I lost like 50 games in a row. But I sure did love them. So yeah. Oh, okay. That's why you picked Harlequins.
Oh yeah.
Cool. What about you other guys?
John's muted over there.
Yeah, he keeps it muted because he's got some feedback. So
because last time it kept sending to me like the entire time, so trying to stop the flow. I would agree with Josh. You have to like the way the army looks, I think, first, and because the armies that you like the look of is the army you're going to put the effort into painting and building and playing longer if you like the way it looks. Yeah, I think that's about it. And it helps to do a little research to pick an army that you like, sort of what they're about. Like I might like the Daughters of Cain army the way they look, but then I read the fluff and I'm like, that's not something I'd be interested in building and playing an army in. So I think first looks, and number two is like what the army is and what they're about also.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing to note is I completely agree with you in the concept of it, especially when I was first in the hobby. Like I said, I was definitely drawn to the aesthetics and the fluff, number one. But now that I've been playing for, oh my God, it's almost like 10 years now. I will say, while I agree with you, and that's true, there is a certain degree of you can if you pick an army and you love it, but it does not perform the way that you think it should, or the units that you love just don't work at all, and your play style doesn't fit the army, it can really deflate your interest in that army a lot. I have actually sold armies because of that. I love the fluff, I love their aesthetic, but they're just never there in the rules the way that I want them to be, and it just didn't click. So I don't know. I think there's I'm not going to deny the importance of the games, the play style. Exactly. I think, and how much support they get from GW is a big deal too, I think, for certain people.
Yeah, that's Jared. That's very true. Also, I think another thing you do have to look into is the actual price that it costs to create an army. As you know, GW has their favorites, and their favorites, so I'm just going to say it, Stormcast Eternal, are fairly economical to collect. Like when I first started Stormcast, they're essentially Space Marines, which I love, so it was an easy choice to go with. But if anyone remembers, about 5 years ago, when Age of Sigmar first came out, GW overproduced the Age of Sigmar starter box set by like 100,000 units. They were giving them away pretty much because retailers knew they couldn't sell them. They're getting 300 of these boxes, and they know they can't sell them for $150 a pop.
Yeah, and it was all that
them for like $5 over cost just to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So
I remember that I picked up like 3 of them. Yeah,
exactly. In my starting off my army, I bought like 4 of them because it was literally cheaper to buy a starter set and get all those models than, say, at the time when they were priced a little too high, a 5-man box set for like $50 of Liberators.
This is so true. Yeah, and I remember when I first started, not being a part of the community, not having experience with it, I spent a lot more money than I needed to. I didn't know about that you could get discounts. I didn't know that you could package things or talk to store owners or buy, sell, trade stuff. Like I just thought, oh, I've never done this hobby stuff before, especially the hobby side. I need to buy all the GW products. Like I actually had GW paintbrushes because I thought those would be the best ones. So
shame on you.
Well, I didn't know. So I think imparting some wisdom, especially onto people just getting into the hobby, new people, is smart. Like, okay, don't buy the GW plastic glue for the love of God. It's just super glue. It's 1,000 times more expensive. And
I think an honest retailers will tell you the reason GW even makes that stuff is so that they can say that they do all aspects of the hobby.
Right. Yeah. And it's not bad for them to try to cash in. They're a business, so they're going to try to be like, yes, there's new people. Use our product. Use our brushes. Use our glue. That's easy sells for them. I don't blame them at all. But wisdom for new people: just go to Walmart and buy Gorilla Glue.
Go buy the $1 primer can. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that I wish I would have known earlier. Yeah. So I think it's important to know all these things. I think the price, how effective it's going to be on the table. But most importantly, I agree. Most importantly, the aesthetic. You're going to want to, if you want to keep it around, you want to love the aesthetic and the fluff the most. But these other things are, I think, something to consider and factor in for sure. So.
Yeah. Price point's huge.
Yeah.
If you want to do Daughters of Cain, you better be prepared for that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see any starter sets for them.
No. 10 girls for $60, and you need 120 of them. No.
Yeah. Or as Ross was just telling me, he started up Beast Claw Raiders, and he's just like, I bought 3 boxes and my whole army's done. Like
I said, I'll give GW props on that one. The Beast Claw Raider starter box set is like the greatest box set ever because the guy on the War Mammoth that comes with it makes like 4 different models.
He does.
So you just go online, you get the directions, and you can make them into any model you want. You can turn them into a troop choice. You can turn them into an HQ choice. You can turn them into the alternate HQ choice. I mean, and it's like, you're just spending $85 at a time for, just a huge value.
Yeah.
Or if you can find that Get Started box.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
If you can find Get Started boxes, which are already discounted by GW, a lot of them are about 20% off the models already.
Yeah.
If you can find those on a discount at a third-party retailer, that's how you build a force really fast.
Yeah, like I said. So you'll have a lot of extra HQ guys laying around, but, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Another good one, the best value box set I know of is actually the
Seraphon?
The Iron Jaws box set. Because
Oh
if you
yeah,
ever go to look at the Get Started Iron Jaws box set, you get a War Chanter, 10 orcs, and then 3 of the orcs on boars for $85. If you were to buy the 3 orcs on boars in their own separate box set, how they come packaged, it's $79. So if you spend $6 more, you're getting 11 more models. Get Started box set.
Well, it's like the Seraphon one too. You get the Carnosaur, and it alone is the same price as the Get Started box.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It was buy a Carnosaur and get a whole army for free. Like,
I just did that deal. Oh yeah.
yeah, that's right, because you're starting Lizardmen. So yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, or you're restarting Lizardmen, I should say. So okay, cool. So I guess it begs the question. Now that we got the kind of some of the practicals out of the way, I think the next part. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
One more thing. I think there's also Ross brought up the economics, but he also said, I believe, support. Also, like I'm drawn to the Tomb King army.
Nope.
I love the aesthetic of Egypt and the skeleton.
You're not getting much support there, John.
But I mean, like, they're not going to be supported. So, like, that's stopping me from starting that army because I know that it's sort of a compendium thing that may or may not ever happen again. So, like, I'm not going to take the plunge, so to speak, into that because I know that it may or may not be supported. I think that is hampering my hobby for sure.
Yeah, that's I think that type of thing too really is can put people off. Like I think for a lot of us, like I play Space Marines for 40K, and do I actually ever want to buy any more regular Space Marines when I know that there's probably going to be Primaris equivalents coming out soon? No way.
Yeah. And I'd recommend taking all this in. If you are new, the best way you can do this, the best way you can find out these tricks and these tips is find a local gaming community and talk to the veterans, talk to the people. They'll know ways to get this stuff done. They'll have a better grip, hopefully, of the meta, the gameplay, what is effective is basically what that is. And then also, if you can't, barring that, if you don't have a local community, seriously, get online, go on, join the Facebook groups, join the forums, and this will really help educate yourself before you make big purchases, so that you're doing the right thing, and then you feel better about it, and you're more likely to stick with it for a longer period of time. That would be my recommendation. So
yeah, I think almost every Age of Sigmar army has its own personal Facebook group.
Definitely, 100%. It's easy to find the communities if you go out looking for them. They are there. But if you're new like me, when I didn't realize all this stuff was there. I didn't know about all this stuff. So, yeah, check Facebook. Check. Just Google tactics for your faction, and you will find forums that will help you with that kind of stuff for sure. So, okay, cool. So moving along, I'm curious for all of you guys moving forward. What do you think is especially with the force you're working on right now, what's your motivating factor? Is it you're just trying to make a fluff army, something cool to paint? Is it a tournament army? Is it for fun games at the club, narrative stuff? What are you guys jumping into right now, and what's the purpose?
Well, I'm currently working on my Beast Claw Raiders. I wanted to do something completely and totally different from the Order army of Stormcast Eternals I was doing now, and like I said before, it's a good box set, and it's a good box set at a good price, with good, fairly recent sculpts. So it's completely different from what I've been painting. It's instead of painting metal, I'm painting mostly fur. It gives me a chance to do some different types of basing. Will it ever be competitive? Probably not, unless they redo the book. But I think
it's still good, Ross.
What's that?
Oh, it's still good.
Well, we'll get to that part later.
It's going to be good for one turn. That's all I can play right now. But it's just you know, it's like I said, it's going to be dependent on it's something that no one actually has. Go to a tournament, you don't see that many destruction armies, and you definitely don't see any Beast Claw Raider armies.
So you're doing it for like it's a fun army for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun army. I don't know how many games I'll win with it, but it'll be completely different. Maybe I'll win me some painting contests. I don't know, but
this is something that I recommend for veterans. This is kind of where I'm at too, especially after you've been doing it for a while and you have maybe a couple armies. I look over at my shelf and I'm like, okay, I'm good at painting one color, so all my armies are like this, the same color. I want some variety. I want a hobby challenge. That is a viable option to build an army because you want the hobby experience. You want the hobby challenge, and it's fun. And as a veteran, I think it keeps you alive in the hobby. It stops you from selling your stuff because you still got the motivation to do stuff. So, not that selling's bad, but it makes me sad when people sell their armies. So, put all that work into it. So yeah, I think as a veteran, it's good to look into it and say, hey, I don't have an army that's this color. For instance, me and my son are going to be starting a Goblins army, and we already got a couple things. And this is one of the major draws for us was that they're green, and I don't have like I don't have a green faction. We don't do that. I look over on my shelf, everything's Zinch, so it's blue, or it's Corn, so it's red. So yeah, I kind of want to explore that avenue of things. So it's going to be a fun project that way. So yeah,
definitely painting green skin is great.
Oh, green's so easy to paint. I can't wait for it. It's a good one. And then my son he's 6 years old, and this is just really his first foray into Warhammer. So I wanted to have something that he could help with the hobby. And green's an easy thing to paint. He can do the base coating. He can kind of. He's not at the assembly stage yet. I don't want him using knives and stuff like that. So, but he can help me organize, and that's one thing that he enjoys. But when we get to the painting stage, yeah, definitely I'm going to have him do base coating. And then probably when he's asleep, I'll come back and do some touch up on the colors just so he feels better about himself and we have a better looking army.
Now, Jared, do you think you're going to run into a problem where he's going to eventually he could run into the idea that his models will magically paint themselves overnight?
Well, to be honest, with a 6-year-old, a younger kid, if you're a dad and you're trying to look into getting them into Warhammer, I don't think we should overestimate their abilities. Okay, he can't even read yet. Like he's just learning. So, but he picks it up really quick. He's very interested in it, and I think what I'm trying to foster with him mostly is like the father-son dynamic. So as he grows into it, he'll have fond memories. It's a thing for us to spend time together. And yes, he's learning about the hobby. And, as we always say, I'd rather have my son be a nerd when he gets older because then he won't have disposable income and get himself in trouble. So, but anyway, I just don't want to overestimate him. I'm trying to teach him it. He knows how to use the dice. He's starting to learn like what's a 6+. He's got all that down. Or what's a 4+ roll? He understands that, and it's good for him that way. We're working on the D3s. He doesn't understand that quite yet, but he'll pick it up. So that's how I'm looking at painting too. Just get him involved, get him doing something. But I don't think doing it and finishing it for him is gonna. I think it's gonna excite him more than it's gonna like take away his excitement, if that makes any sense. I don't think I'm setting him up for failure or anything. So it's yeah. Cool. So I guess I can go into. I just jump in and answer the question I asked you guys while you guys are thinking. So, so if we're doing Gloomspite Gits, and I'm also working on Stormcast at the same time, and I pretty much just finished up a Stormcast force. But moving into Gloomspite Gits, my motivation behind it primarily has been to make an army with my son, and we're doing a very well balanced force. This is not a tournament army that I'm trying to create here at all. I want elements from all over the range. I want some trolls. I want some goblins. I want some squigs. A lot of the fun units to make a really cool looking force. Because again, my purpose is to build something with my son there. So it's going to be. I don't think it's a terrible army. It's going to be fun to play. I don't think it's a slouch. It'll be a very good like club pickup game, fun army, good to learn all aspects of the game kind of thing, which is my goal with that one. So, and then some really good painting opportunities, lots of different colors, and I think some opportunities for my son again to learn how to do some of this stuff. That's my goal. So, yeah, pretty much ready to pull the trigger on buying the whole army. I just need a couple more bucks and I got it. So, yeah, where are you guys at? What are you jumping into?
Sounds good. I'm redelving into beasts.
Yes.
Different beasts from Ross, but I've actually, since you put out using the Realm Gate Wars as a kind of like basis for them, just kind of throwing out the Tzeentch portion of that army and still being happy with the composition is actually pretty impressive. Just trying to not look at just what is super, super optimal and still getting something good out of it. So lots of just junky little halflings running around those Ungors.
Yes.
They're just going to annoy the crap out of people. But yeah, it's just going to be nice to kind of just get that back. The biggest thing is, oh my goodness, taking them off those squares. It's like 130 models.
I don't know if you saw our post, but we will help you rebase that army. We'll do rebasing night. Okay, we'll do it. We'll get it done in one night. So
I have all the bases. I just need to rip them off and put them on.
All right. Well, you tell us on a Thursday. We'll do it. I'm down. And then then we can get to painting. Like I said, 91 days till we launch our narrative thing. So model a day, we'll get you like halfway with your horde. So
just gonna do a whole lot of dry brushing, I think.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That'll make it go super fast.
Yeah. What about you other guys before we move to the next topic? What are you working on?
I guess I'm last. I am returning to Seraphon. They were my first love. Picked them up in, what was it, 8th edition fantasy? 7th edition fantasy? Whenever we started our
not 4th.
Ladder league, escalation league.
I think it was 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And they played them all through. Not really super happy with how they were playing when they first came out. Just not super happy with just the way the army sort of worked. It was like that was before they limited summoning, so it was all just a summoning army, and it was like not super exciting to play, not super exciting to play against for my opponents. And when the Sylvaneth came out, I jumped at that immediately because I loved the look of the trees. So that became like a hobby army, and it's like decently competitive also, which is a plus. But now that's sort of the range of trees that I want. Have basically the whole collection I want. It's all painted up. It was time to go back to my first love, the lizards. So sort of flush them out more. They play a lot differently now. There's a lot more options, and they're not super high in the competitive thing right now. So I feel like it's a really good one to bring, to the club, etc.
Oh, you can make people sad with them.
Yeah, there are some things and I'm interested to see you make these lizardmen work. So we've had some discussions, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a bit when we start talking list building and tactics and strategies and stuff with that. So, but yeah, so great. Now everybody has a baseline of kind of where we're all at, what we're looking at in our perspective here moving into the next phase. So I think what's important to note, especially for new players, again, take into consideration the stuff we already said about aesthetics and cost and that kind of stuff. But now moving into the actual construction of an army, which is what we're going to be talking about, how do you go about doing that? Well, like I said, once you get connected in the forums, once you get connected in your local community and talk to veterans, you can find out easily what is going to be effective for your army. And it's kind of a negative connotation, but people call it the net list. You go online and you say, okay, internet, what's the most effective tournament army, and boom, there you go. And you can do that if you're interested in playing competitively. You are going to find very competitive, very points efficient, min maxing everything you can do armies on the internet. And if that's what you're interested in, don't have any shame about it. Just do your thing. So just make sure that if that is what you're interested in, you communicate that to your local players, to your local club. Don't just come in and start bashing people over the head. Be like, hey guys, I am looking for a competitive game. This is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm building for. Make sure you communicate that, and everything will be smoother for you. Just trust me on that one. Then you don't get all the drama. And yeah. So you can do that, or you can build a narrative-based army. Your local clubs might have, or areas might have people that are doing narrative-based stuff, like a campaign or a story-type driven event that you could build an army for. That can be really fun. That's something that we're actually looking into, and I think there's a lot of energy behind it from a lot of us. So even as a veteran, a lot of times you get burned out from the competitive scene. It's really fun to start pouring your energy and your effort into a really fulfilling type of narrative list and recreate some of these great stories that they have. So that's an angle. So yeah, there's a lot of motivations you can have when you're building an army, and I suggest being communicative about it, and don't make the mistakes I did and just assume that every army that you build is like, yes, this is the best competitive option. I'm going to win every tournament, because you're not. You're going to lose 50 games in a row, just like me. So you gotta learn. It's a skill. So okay, cool. Let's move into the strategic phase here. And I think what I want to do moving into this, taking into account what you guys are building, even if it's a narrative one, we're going to talk tactics and strategy now, how to be effective with your chosen army. So like Josh was saying, even though it's not, the min-max best thing, there are still really effective things you can do that aren't necessarily the net list or the number one thing. So I think that'll be good stuff to share too, and your thought process on that. So I think going into it, I think we should first discuss what are the main elements of the game that you need to prepare for if you're going to try to make an effective list, no matter what it is, if it's narrative or even tournament competitive. And what I mean by this is, let's discuss the necessary factors: speed, survivability, objectives, overpowering anvil units that just destroy everything, your hero hammer type stuff. What elements do you find to be most effective, and how are you trying to exploit those elements with your build?
Well, I guess it's just me. Everyone else seems to have left.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Just go ahead. I'm sure they'll come back in.
Yeah. All right. So pretty much, I always look at, for Sigmar, two things. I look at, can you dish out enough damage to overcome your opponent's defenses, and movement. Movement is probably the most important part of Sigmar, because if you can control the movement phase, either speeding up your movement or slowing down your opponent's, your chances of winning far increase, regardless of what type of list you brought. Like I said, I play mostly Dracoline units that they hit hard, they hit fast, and they can pretty much go through anything I want. The big thing is, and what I'm working on is, how do I get them to exactly where I need them at the right time? And a lot of people, if they have a fast, hard-hitting unit, they just want to rush them up the board, get them in combat as soon as possible, and then, like you said, and then have them, pretty much take out whatever they can take out. The problem with that is, you do that on turn 2. By turn 5, that unit maybe not be there anymore, and it's also, even though you've destroyed a lot of your enemy units, you don't have enough left to actually win the game.
Sure, yeah, so and that's the thing when you build for this.
You have to figure out.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you have the Dracoline army, which is it's not the number one Stormcast army, but you've been having a lot of success with it. It's been doing kind of what you built it to do. This Death Star unit that just runs in and just destroys everything. And then you're finding the like you said, the pitfalls of it, the difficulty of playing it, where the skill comes in is picking your fights and being where you need to be, because you're so low model count. It's really hard to control the objectives. That's definitely one of the shortcomings. So I think it's important to note that. So it's almost like these elements that make the game effective, you can only pick a few of them. It's very difficult to have an army. Even the best tournament armies have a weakness that they can't really exploit every one of these aspects of the game. And obviously some are better than others, but I think it's important to note what aspects are you going for. Like Ross just shared, I'm going for the super Death Star heavy hitting unit that's super fast and I can be where I need to be, but my weaknesses and the things I need to try to play to overcome are my low model count and the objective and chaff. Like if there's a chaff army, that would be a problem too. So that's great stuff. I like that. So I guess I can go next. So well, right now my Stormcast army is kind of like my main one tactically that I'm looking into, but we can talk about goblins in a bit too. So right now I play like a Vanguard chapter, a Vanguard chamber of Stormcast. So it's a lot of shooting. I have 2 Judicators. I have 1 squad of 5 Hunters, 2 squads of 5 Judicators there, like I said. And I got a squad of Paladors led by a Lord Aquilor, who is my general, and I'm running the Tempest Lords. I also have a Knight of Zeros, a Knight Venator, the sniper guy. I got a squad of 3 Longstrike Raptors, and a squad of 6 Gryph-hounds, which are quickly becoming my favorite units. Those guys are great. So anyway, my general strategy here is to use the Stormcast ability to deep strike in conjunction with the Lord Aquilor's Lord of the Azurite Hurricane command ability to teleport units and put them into outflank to cover the speed angle. Like I can pretty much be wherever I want all the time, backed up by the Tempest Lord's ability to generate command points. I can teleport multiple units every single turn, and the speed element is huge. And my shooting damage output is pretty significant, especially if I put all of my units into one. So, but where I suffer is I cannot do a straight up fight. Like I have no units that are going to be able to go toe to toe with a Death Star, like Ross was talking about with the Dracos. I can't fight that. If I run into that, they're just going to trample me. These big horde units are just going to absorb what I'm putting out, and they're going to dish back too much, and I just get killed. So I found that out very early on, that my speed, my damage output, my ability to kill characters is exceedingly good. But I'm having troubles here holding objectives. I can't push in anywhere. I don't have the ability to assault into people and push them off objectives and outlast them. So I've had to come up with other ways, and that's been an interesting thing. So that's kind of where I'm building with that. And as you can see, right, there's tactics there. So as far as goblins go, it's a very balanced force. We're gonna have a big glob of 60 goblins with some trolls, 6 rock-cut trolls in the middle of them. Dank old Trog boss. We're going to have the character support for the goblins, and then that'll be the core of the army, and it's going to basically be the hammer and anvils type list, where that really tanky, killy blob that's pretty slow, they're going to just slowly advance to the midfield, try to absorb whatever the enemy's dishing out or whoever's coming at them, which they should be pretty good at that with all their nets and there's just sheer amount of bodies and wounds that blob will have. Lock down whatever's coming in, and then I have a Mangler Squig boss and some Boingrot Bounders and some Squig troops that are going to be my hammer. So they're going to, since they can fly, they're going to fly over the battlefield and get to the back, try to kill characters, try to pincer attack whatever the big blob's holding up. Very standard type list, but I think the goblins could pull it off really well. And it'll be, I'm not going to say it's going to be the most effective thing ever, but yeah, it's definitely going to be effective. Nobody's going to want to run into 60 goblins with nets that are buffed up with the Loon Boss and everything, and 6 Rock Gut Trolls and the Troll Boss. Like, it's a solid force. It's going to hit really hard if you try to run into that. It's going to attrition you down really bad. So I don't know how hard the hammer is going to hit going around the sides, but that's the basic premise that I have going forward with that army. So John, where are you at with the lizards?
Right now, it's like I'm starting fresh. Really. So I was doing some research, like you said, on social media groups, on websites. There's some great communities out there that are way more up to date on what's available and what combos are out there and things like that. So, jumping back into lizards, I am sort of doing a student approach where I'm going to try a couple different things. Right now, I'm looking at 3 different types of lists, very different types of lists, and see which one I like, and sort of move from there. So I'm tonight at the club, I ran a Shadow Strike list, which is heavy Ripperdactyls in reserve, come out of reserve, surprise you, jump on objectives that are not adequately protected, or jump on that lone character who's out there, but also has some elements of summoning and sort of a castle in the back. So try to chaff you up and rely on the Ripperdactyls that are coming out of reserve to do the heavy lifting. That's one list. Another list is the Thunderquake list, and that's sort of all the monsters, getting 2 Bastillodons, a Carnosaur, the Engine of the Gods in there, just all the big monsters, and they sort of just trample across the field. So I want to kind of try that list, a monster mash type list out. I love the idea of all the big dinos on the field together, rumbling around like a giant caravan. That's appealing to me. And then I have I guess there is also the pure summoning list, which is just spam skinks and just try to get as many summoning points as possible and just summon in what you need per game. I like the ability to adapt with that list. Not convinced it's going to be super good, because a list like yours, Jared, that is super quick and can jump on heroes, I think a list is really going to struggle with. So not as excited about that one. And the last one is doing a list of Saurus heavy, Saurus warrior heavy,
Yes.
running like the 90 Saurus warriors into stuff, and just hordes of dinos seems freaking awesome. So that's another list I'm trying to find. So really, I'm going to take each one at its own, try them out, see which one I like, see which one fits my play style. I have all the models, which is great, but it's going to be sort of a learning thing. I'm letting it unfold as I go. So,
right.
Which is it's nice that there's no pressure locked into something. I can sort of play around with stuff. I think that's helping refresh my hobby and in a big way.
Yeah, and it's nice because all those lists have different strengths and weaknesses too. That, like we were talking about, some of them are the fast one with the Ripperdactyls. You got the Monster Mash one that's it's just the up in your face, but it's lower model count. And then you have the classic, which is very popular in our meta right now that I'm seeing a lot, is the Horde. The objective controlling horde of bodies seems to be what most people are gravitating towards right now, at least in our meta. From what I'm seeing around, is it's a deal. Yeah, and of course there's some gimmick stuff that's out there, but it's usually right now where I'm not seeing a lot of fast armies. There's a few, but it seems like the medium speed ones, very low shooting, but just horde O bodies, durability, ways to bring stuff back to life, and just controlling those objectives seems to be the way that people are going forward. So, and obviously there's some factions out there that are better at that. Like you have Daughters of Cain, they're hordes, but they also do massive amounts of damage too. So, and they're very durable. They tick a lot of boxes that some factions can't do, but by no means do I think that they're broken or anything like that. I'm not going to use that kind of language. I think they're deal withable for sure. Yeah. Cool. So I guess the next section I have is, so there's an old saying that the best laid plans never make it past contact with the enemy. So, which I guess Ross found out tonight. So, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But what do you do when you're in the middle of the game? You have your plans. See, we've been talking about the plans that we have with our force, our strategy, our overarching strategy, what we're trying to design, the list to do, going into the battle. What happens when you get into the battle and you look over on the other side of the table and you're like, well, shit. like I can already tell that this force that I'm up against is going to be right there and exploiting the weaknesses that I already know that I have in my list. They're designed to exploit those weaknesses. What do I do now? Do you just pack it up and call it a day, or do you change your tactics mid-game, or is it a strategic thing? Do you have to go back and say, man, my weaknesses are just too much of a weakness. I'm going to have to redo my list to account for these things. So what do you do in that situation?
I think, unfortunately, you just have to kind of chalk up the losses you take and learn from them. Like I said, one of the things I've had to learn is, even though my army is fairly killy, that I can't just aggressively rush across the board, because that sometimes doesn't work.
Yep.
So you have to sometimes be more patient. You maybe you need to be setting yourself up to either be able to really exploit the double turn, or really make your big moves in turns 3, 4, and 5, not necessarily in 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think that's some wise advice. And don't be so dead set on the plan that you have conceived for your army that you're unable to change in the course of a game. I think that's very wise. That's very smart, because I think we get locked into, okay, I'm going to set my guys down. Like, for instance, I have a Khorne Mortals army, Khorne Bloodbound. Okay, Khorne Bloodbound has one tactic. And this is a very fluffy thing for them. They don't use tactics and strategy. What we do is we set up the meat grinder and we just slowly roll the meat grinder all over you. And this is what happens. I just say, here I am, let's go. And most people that don't know what they do, they run into it and it's a slaughter. Like, you're not getting out of there alive. Once you got the banner down, you got all the chopping going on, you start killing me, and I'm like, cool, kill my guys. I get blood tithe points, and I attack you after you kill me. I don't care. Blood for the blood guy. So. But then I've been noticing, which really drew me to my Stormcast. They're so slow. I can't get to where I need to go most of the time. Even by trying to adapt my list a bit. I lose a lot of my killiness in order to gain speed, and the balance just isn't there. So that's one of the things that are tough with them. So yeah, But thinking about it with my Stormcast, this is something that John had taught me actually when I first started playing them. I had this plan in my head. Okay, I'm gonna have my ninja assassins with all their bows just appear all over the board and just shoot all your characters dead, and that'll be it. It'll be over. And so what I started doing when I first started playing was, okay, I have this ability to just deep strike ranged weapons wherever I want on the battlefield. So, kablam! I turn 1. I want to just get in there and I want to just cripple the enemy. So I would show up, I'd start shooting, and sure, I'd kill some characters. Sure, I'd do this, but then I would just get steamrolled, because here I am, turn 1, 9 inches away from you. There's no way I'm going to kill an entire army, and all you have to have is just one killy unit, like your Drakos or John's Kurnoth Hunters with the size. If 3 of those guys are alive, they're going to just destroy my entire army the next turn. like I can't. And that's what was happening. I was losing all these games because, yes, I would hit hard, but I didn't have any staying power, no durability. So I've had to adapt in the games, I've had to look at across the table and say, okay, I see that my opponent has fast units. My opponent has the ability to teleport. My opponent has the huge durable horde. How do I deal with this on the fly? And luckily, I have the tools there in my army to be able to use my movement shenanigans. But what I noticed the most was I was being too aggressive. I needed to learn to hold back. And I think this is very true of most Stormcast players, is to play for that double turn. Design your list so that you're going to be, because you're going to get a double turn most of the time, but design your list to be able to exploit it as much as possible. So I've been holding back. I've been doing turn one. Maybe I can't snipe all the characters I want to snipe, but I can put some damage into this unit to soften them up, this frontline unit or this horde. And I'm going to bide my time. Turn one. I'm going to bide my time. Turn two. Try to get into a good position. Don't want to fall too far behind on victory points. Maybe consolidate one. But I have been letting my opponents rush on the objectives and get ahead of me on points, because now they're the ones that are pulling out of position. They're falling into my trap. So then around turn three is when I'm trying to strike. So what I want to have happen is I want to do my double turn on turn two, so that I can get all my stuff into position. I've softened up some key units, and then I can wolf pack. I can take my whole force and strike this one area with the Celestin Prime coming in from reserve, doing what he does, and just knock this area out of play, cripple all these characters, and just be like, wow, okay, so I gave you these points, but now I'm taking them back. I'm coming back. And it has been working. To play for the long game and play for turn 5 is working a lot. Now I have some armies that give me problems. Flesh eater courts are really giving me problems as of late because their fast monsters are a problem. But I'll figure it out. So, but there you go. An on the fly change. Sometimes you have to change your list a little bit, but being able to not get so stuck into your ways. So, yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like you have two options. You have bear down and system. Trust in your system. Whatever, like, I know my army does this well. I'm going to trust in that and do that the best I can. And hopefully the dice gods and the game plays out, the way I need it to. That's one option. Or the other option is you go completely out of character of your army and the way you play and try something different to combat this new opponent. I find this a lot with people that play armies that they don't know what they do. Like when I was playing my trees, a lot of people don't know what the trees do, don't know what the woods do, don't know how the trees and the woods interact. So they tend, it's very common that people make mistakes because they either overestimate what they do or underestimate what they do, and they don't stick to their plan. And I feel like if they would just stuck to the plan that their army is good at, they'd be fine. But they were too worried about what I'm doing, and they got themselves all twisted and start to make poor decisions.
Yeah, it's like basketball. It's like basketball. The movie Basketball. You get the psych out. Get the psych.
Yeah. So Zach goes into it. So, Ross has a plan. And I think Ross needs to stick to that plan no matter what. Because his system will work. Whether he's patient for a turn or two, I think the way he plays his army and the way his army is built, it's to trust in the system. And just rely on that. And, you will find an opponent and a game or a mission that doesn't work out. And that's okay too. But I think in general, an army like that, you have a plan, you stick to it and hope for the best and hope your opponent makes less mistakes than you, or more mistakes than you do.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points there, especially about the underestimating units and the overestimating units thing. This is this is crucial, and I think brings up a whole aspect of the game that we didn't even talk about yet. It's like it's the warrior scholar side, and I've noticed this a lot in Age of Sigmar, especially in club pickup games, but in all honesty, in tournaments too. The being uneducated about what the other forces do. I think the more popular armies, the really strong meta armies, most people are going to be familiar with those because, again, you see them more. But there are a lot of people that don't play the standard, especially in Age of Sigmar. It's definitely a wider field. The game is constructed so that there are more viable options than 40K, for example. So you're going to run into a lot of units that you've never seen before, combos that you've never seen before, things that you thought, wow, I'm looking at this guy's list, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like it's going to do anything. But does he have some kind of like master stroke super plan here that he's just going to like tear me apart like that? And then you can get yourself psyched out that way, and you don't play the way that you should be playing. I think that's an excellent point. So yeah, educating ourselves. What do these units do? How are they effective on the battlefield? This is a huge part of the game. So, open up your Azir app if you have that, and everybody should. It's free. You can look at all the war scrolls, go in there and start looking at stuff that you never looked at before. Familiarize yourself with all what the opponents can do. There you go. Especially this is like I think for guys that are like us that don't get to play all the time. I think the majority of us war gamers are once or twice a month gamers here. I think we're fortunate that we play once a week. So, but even that's nothing compared to the tournament. The tournament guys are playing. I mean, you got these college kids that don't have jobs, so they just play 40K all day. You can play 7 rounds a day, or if they want, and get all these games in and all this practice in. That's not something that realistically I can do, or I think that most people can do. So this is how we can kind of make up for that: is try to read the forums, go on the app, familiarize yourself with stuff, educate yourself that way. I don't think you can ever do a substitution for experience, but at least it can help you out a little bit there. Yeah. I think one thing I hate at the club, okay, maybe hate's a strong word. I notice at the club that I dislike is when people show up and I know they don't do any work during the week. Like they have their army. I know they don't read any forums. I know they don't make lists. I know they don't think about it. And then they show up for games or they show up for tournaments and they get really frustrated. And I'm like, hey, you don't get to be frustrated when you don't put any effort in. Like I'm fine with you having, showing up and having a good time and everything, but you can't get upset about losing when you don't do any of the work behind the scenes. So I would encourage us to do that. So yeah, John.
I think it's also good too is to think about your army and what you're doing and show up and be a good opponent for somebody too. Know your roles, know what sort of know your roles, sort of know what you're trying to do. Instead of just throwing whatever together and getting obliterated on turn 1 or 2 because you threw together things that just don't make sense. You're not really trying. You're not putting effort. Like nobody is going to want to play you like that. And
it sounds harsh, but I think honestly, it's not. I mean, you're gonna get the reason I say this stuff to familiarize yourself with it. I think you're gonna get more enjoyment out of the game when you do that. You're going to get more out of your hobby when you do that. It's going to be something that's more meaningful for you, and that'll translate it over to these are your friends that you're playing with. These are guys that only get out there once a month, once a week. They want a good experience. They want a good game. And it doesn't have to be like a tournament level thing, but this is yes, I agree entirely about knowing your own rules and making it a really good experience. For example, what just popped into my head. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, me and my son are going to be getting into this. We could play practice games at home, right? And that's all well and good. He will love it. My son will love it. We're going to do that. I want him to learn. but I'm not going to be getting my hobby out of that. Does that make any sense? I mean, I get the love that I have for my son and that whole part, and that'll be great and that'll be meaningful to me. But as far as the gaming side goes, this is not going to be. I'm going to have to handicap myself. I'm not going to be dunking. I'm not going to be like dunking 3-pointers on my or just throwing my son out of the way if we're playing basketball, just dunking on him, throwing the 3-pointers. Oh, he goes up for a shot. Stop! Like he's 6 years old. Like I have to handicap myself. But that's something that I don't want to. I don't want to feel like that when I'm playing down at the club with my peers. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, some things to consider. Now we're getting a little long here. I want to kind of wrap this up, but I think overall there's some good stuff here to look at how you're building your army, and just yeah, we're gonna have more of this going forward, and we're gonna play test some of this stuff. I guess I want to leave with some real theory crafting stuff as far as army building goes. Is where I'm at. Oh, John, did you have something to say?
Just that they did release the LVO previews. And it was like
they did. Wait, nope, I gotta go look.
And they're getting like endless spells of their.
Did you see the new Reavers, the sniper Reavers? Oh my gosh!
Pretty cool.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty cool.
Okay, I'm gonna have to parse through all this stuff. This is way too cool.
It's pretty cool. So go do that.
Oh man!
Not the side.
There's like an obliterator helper. What the heck? This is gonna be awesome. So okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to look at all this. Did you see the ninja librarian, John?
I did.
There's like a Reaver librarian. Wow. Okay, well, now I'm totally thrown. I'm gonna have to check all that stuff out. So, okay, well, back to the live stream. Just to wrap it out with where I'm going, theory crafting stuff. So if I'm taking my Stormcast to a tournament, I am gonna try my Shooty Vanguard list. I do want to run that at a tournament. I haven't gotten the chance yet, but I will. But so theory crafting stuff for you to think about. One list that I'm looking at, I want to try some different stuff that you don't see often, but I think could be effective. I was telling Ross, it's inspired by Ross's Dracoth list, but I want to try with the Dracolines, so the cats, the Thundercats. So what I'm looking at is a Lord Arcanum on a Thundercat with the pack leader ability, and he would also have the Celestial Blades spell. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, Celestial Blades is a spell. You cast it, you get +1 to wound rolls for a unit, which that's incredible. That would make them be wounding on 2s, which is really good. And then the Pride Leader ability is phenomenal. Now what it is it's an aura ability. It's a mount upgrade. So it doesn't take an artifact or anything. You just get a mount upgrade. It gives all units that have keyword Dracoline +1 to hit on all their melee weapons. This is bonkers. Like this is for the cats and the riders because it just says Dracoline keyword. So amazing. So him next to 6 Thundercats, 6 Dracolines. And of course they'll have the 4 Grand Staves, 2 normals. They'll have the Terrifying Aspect spell, which is the -1 bravery and -2 bravery to chaos. And then we'll have backing them up will be 3 squads of 5 Sequitors with the Mauls, and then 3 Mauls each, and then a squad of 9 Long Strike Raptors. And we'll have the Knight Heraldor with the horn, and we'll have the Lord Castellan with the lantern to give the +1 save. So if all things go according, so we talk about plans. My plan this is a list where you have a plan and you have to stick to it, otherwise it all falls apart. So I'm going to do Anvils of the Helden Hammer. So what this will grant me is the Lord Arcanum will have a -1. Well, actually, he would have a -2 bravery bubble because Dracolines are -1, and the Anvils of the Helden Hammer general trait is -1. And if you cast the Terrifying Aspect spell, we're talking -3 bravery bubble to everybody, -4 bravery bubble to chaos, which is This is crazy. -4 bravery is huge. And then, or -3 is huge. That plus, so if the Lord Arcanum and the Dracolines are running next to each other, all those Dracolines are going to be hitting on 2s. And if they're fully buffed, they'll be wounding on 2s on the charge. They can reroll failed charges because they're Dracolines. And they'll be able to run and charge from the Heraldor. They'll have +1 armor save. And with the 9 long strike raptors, I'll have my long range support that I think is becoming exceedingly necessary in the meta. And because of Anvils of the Helden Hammer, I'll be able to either to shoot the 9 long strikes twice, or in later turns after the Dracolines get stuck in, I'll be able to fight with the Dracolines in the hero phase and the combat phase, which will just be devastating. So that is a tournament type style list that I'm looking into running, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. So anyway, I didn't know if you guys had any final thoughts like that, or if we were ready to wrap up or anything like that.
No, I think we covered.
I think I'm ready to.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just still trying out again the 4 different types of Seraphon list. So it's just gonna make sure to give each one its fair shot. You know, don't just play 1 or 2 games and not like really try to test out the different aspects up against lists that I know it's bad against, and see how I do, see how I like how it plays, and go from there. Yeah.
Solid points. All right, cool. Ross, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you learned a thing or two and had fun hanging out with us. We're going to be checking back in on all of our lists. We're going to be giving you updates. We're going to try to make this a normal thing, and we're trying to pull in as many people from our club to share with you as we can. So we had Josh Booz in, but he got disconnected. So thank you for joining us, John, Josh, and Ross. I'm Jared for LWG, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.